Everyone happy? It's good to see some familiar faces here. Before we get going, does most of you or all you sell on Amazon, yeah? Yeah. And would you say that you're at advanced level? The reason I ask is because some of the stuff we're going to cover today is quite advanced. I'll give people a copy of the slides after if they request it. And there's quite a bit of information to go through, and I think I've got about 30 minutes. I might be able to squeeze a little bit more out of Prem, we'll see. Did I just turn it off? That's a good start. Right, which way am I going with this?
Downward. Up and down.
Up and down. Good. Here we go. Oh, you've taken the front slide. Alright, we might not get through all of this today, but A9 bird's eye view. Who knows what the A9 algorithm is? Yeah, I heard some chuckles. Who knows what A10 is? Good, it doesn't exist, I'll explain. Then we're going to do ranking with PPC on Amazon, conversion on the continuum, geo-ranking. Is a customer quality score really a thing? Dispelling some of the myths of the gurus, and why your conversion rate is out on your reports, in business reports, and how to fix that problem. So, first things first, sending a glass eye to sleep. The reason I say this is because I sat down like a nerd and went through all the science literature on A9 and watched some of the videos presented by Doriana Sonica from the A9 team and some other literature from Amazon Science, I think it's Amazon.science. Now the problem is, unless you're a programmer, it's boring. It's really, really boring. So I thought, how do I take this information and not send everyone to sleep listening to it in such a way that they can actually use it as a functional way on their business? So I'm going to have a crack at it. So just some data first. According to Amazon's own data, 70% of Amazon's customers never click past the first page of search results. 35% of Amazon shoppers click on the first product featured on the search result page. And then the first 3 items displayed in search results for account of 64% of the clicks. What does that say to you? PPC is now a pay-to-play platform, right? On desktop. If the first 3 results at the top of the desktop or more, yeah, it depends, that means that your organic is being pushed down, and in some cases below the fold, depending on the platform. Yeah? 81% of clicks are on brands on the first page of search results. Let's go back. This is pretty nifty, this one, isn't it? But it sells small improvements in relevance can positively impact millions of shoppers. Effectively, there's been a lot of nonsense talked about A10. Someone wants to write a blog post and everything else, but it's leading people down the wrong path. You don't throw away an algorithm that you worked on for a number of years and then start with A10. It just doesn't work like that, and we'll go into that. The other thing is, can you see that little GIF up there? There was a seller from the Asian community went onto Google. I don't know why he did this. I was doing some stuff on A9. And he dug that out of Google history, went into the source code to find it, to give it to me. Not that it's interesting. In the early days, the search engine consisted of a hand-tuned ranking functions with automation, of course. Much has changed since then. Hundreds of products can be similar and equally relevant, but some are more relevant than others because there's a lot of behavioural features that go into how products are ranked. Going back as far as 2016, it was using 100 machine learning models. Obviously, there's much more today. And this is a point. Across the Amazon platforms, they are managing different catalogs, indexes, and ranking models. Yes, not all markets are built in the same for ranking and search relevance. What that means is that we look into online forums and everything else, and people will talk about, oh, did you get the new A9 update, the new change? Yeah, and they think you do a change and it goes across all platforms, but I'll explain in a minute. It's not like that. It's broken down by market with individual teams. So within a thing, what they call ranking models, is data is collected from products that include sales and reviews. Training data is collected from customer behaviour logs. To quote here, we use search to collect our training sets. 7 times per day we compute the unique set of keywords issued for each context of interest. The context can be a combination of marketplace, category, and some of the user features. These include the context of query, textual similarity related to the query, and customer status. Now, this is where people get confused with a thing called customer score, which they attribute to, which I'll get into later. So going back to here with the behavioural features, this is why behavioural features drive the rankings. Users tend to click more often on results at the top of the search results page. So now we get into a bit more geeky language, I'll break it down. So, relevance observed click-through. So since the most relevant products appear higher in ranking than its observed click-through rate, is that given position captures not only the position bias, but also the typical relevance of that position. In English, if this works, what does that mean? Well, the position bias means that you have a higher click-through rate at the top before fewer and fewer people click and stick around to click on the items further down. And then with relevance, so being higher on the page means you'll tend to have a higher click-through rate than a lower placed item, even if the lower placed item is more relevant. So, when we think about that, there could be a product based on price. So that sells more units because it's more attractive, and it's more attractive in terms of the click-through rate that people are going to go for that, because people still shop on Amazon to get a bargain. And Amazon builds that platform to make it feel that way. You know, we have a thing where, you know, everyone wants to do premium products, but not everyone's Nike, Adidas, and all those different kind of people. But it's very interesting here is that even though the algorithm's built around relevance, sometimes price is going to take a lead in this. So models need to see what the customer has not seen. This is another thing which we'll get into the hunger score in a bit. So a single ranking model usually covers a combination of category in the marketplace, e.g. books in Japan. For training the ranking models, we use labels based on customer actions, such as purchases, add to cart or add to basket, or clicks. Again, this is the quote from the team. So matching the products and the queries and bringing them together, add to cart seems to be playing a pivotal role. So there's two sets of labels. You've got negative, you've got positive. Now, positive labels is clicked, add to cart, and purchased. Now, for digital products, if it's consumed, like digital categories like Kindle, Amazon Music, give an example, that can be measured because you can see when the movie started, end, or whether it got shared. But if you drink a Coca-Cola that you bought off Amazon, they can't see that experience. Now, what's really important with positive labels versus the negative labels, so ignored results, it's called. Product was shown, but no action was taken. If the customer is on the results page, pick number 3, then 1 and 2 has a negative vote attribution to it. So when we think about when we're sending all this external traffic to our product pages and it all bounces off, that's also being measured as well. These come down to points of micro conversions, which I'll get into in a bit. So these are needed for future proofing for bad experience in return search results, so the end user on the platform gets what they want. So they do validation traffic. This is constructed from 7 days of customer traffic. This is how we get into how these models are trained for when they push out updates on the platform in that specific marketplace by that specific team. And move slide. Here we go. So another part of this is called the blended score, where they start to bring this together. So you've got query category score for common queries. You've got counter clicks, add to carts, and purchases. There's more than that, but that just gives you the top of the funnel examples. This is calculated on using behavioural information and how often the customer interacts with the category post current query. So if a lot of searches, when people go onto Amazon, and they mainly use it for some form of shopping, like let's say buying pet food or treats, etc., the information they're trying to capture is like, okay, so you went to the page, you purchased, but where did you go after? Where else is there a purchase path that you will effectively going to be attending? So this is like why it's important for the positive and the negative labels. But we're now moving into categories. And like when we think about ranking on Amazon, we think about search terms. And then we think about, Okay, well, why do some search terms not index? Well, because they're category related. They're not going to be relevant. So this is why sometimes you won't get impressions on certain keywords, or you won't get them to appear in your PPC campaigns as well. Although that's a different algorithm, the principle still remains the same. The components of the blended score still for rare queries, unigrams, which is one word, bigrams, 2 adjacent words, trigrams, 3 adjacent words, and 4grams, sounds like a drug deal, doesn't it? 4 adjacent words. These are normally long, as part of the long queries are statistically changed. What do I mean by that? Let's just say you've got a 2-word search that's going to be a lot easier to measure, because what happens is it's just 2 words, right? Easy to put together. Most people search with 2 or 3 words when they search for something. But if you've got a search string with, say, 6 words in, how often is that word going to come up? Not that for order of the phrase, but those words simultaneously appearing in that search phrase, right? Whatever their placement, how rare that's going to be. It's going to be very rare. And if you've got to look at something where you've got to meet a statistical level, then that might only come up, 2, 3 times in 3 months. Or it could be 10 times in 1 year, but balanced at one part of the seasonal change. It lacks the consistency to get statistical significance. So this is why it becomes more problematic versus 1 word, 2 words, or 3 words when you're using longer words. Hunger score. So this, the longer the category is not chosen, the hungrier it becomes. The higher the category query score, the faster the category gets hungry. Now, in one of Doria's videos, she used, and because it was back in 2016, she used an example of a Harry Potter book or movie that was coming out. And she said they had the business team onto them because it's like, well, it's not searchable, we can't find it. So part of the hunger score is way that we talk about in the community, in FBA speak, if you like, is the honeymoon period. They call it a dead start. So when something's at a dead start, how do you discover it? So this is why they have the hunger score. And they do have overrides here, because there is a point where there's so much on the platform with Harry Potter, even something new that come out and they've done big promos and stuff, people still couldn't find it because there's so many different versions and products of Harry Potter in different types, where it's clothing, mugs and stuff like that. So that became more confusing until they made manual adjustments. So what this is a dynamic score that changes during the blending process. When nothing is chosen from a certain category, the hunger score becomes higher and important categories become hungrier faster. So in category score, right? So score relevance for each product. The more relevant products are, more likely to be chosen. Scores from different models are needed to be compared to each other, which I'll go into in a bit. So here's a demo of what it would look like. So the way this is broken down, if you want to take a picture, P stands for pet products, M for movies, and U for music albums. Got the 4 columns here. We've got item name in category relevance score, yeah? Because we normally talk about relevance on the keyword. We don't talk about in category relevance within the community generally. So this is stuff where you can start to look at things in a 3D way. You've got hunger score and then you've got rank. Now you can see P1 is 1.9 in category relevance score, giving it a ranking of 1. Now in iteration 2 here, you can see the hunger score is set to 0 for everyone. Product P1 is the highest in the category relevance score and is chosen as a rank of 1. Now on this one, look what happens with the hunger score. So this one here has been calculated. You've got 2 and you've got 1, and then that is derived as a calculation of 2. So since movies have a higher query category score for the music albums, its hunger increases faster. Are we still awake? Good. Right, so in summary there's a lot of information to take in. There's no such thing as A10. Let's get that one off the table. Machine learning plays a massive role, and nearly all activities happen on page 1. We've seen it time and time again where people will show their graphs from Helium-10 in terms of their keywords, and they might do a search find buyer, which is all blown up at the moment, as we know, across the Amazon community. But what happens, you've seen how easy to move the needle from up in the gods at 332 and then suddenly get to position number 20. Why is that so easy? Because nothing gets sold really off page 1. Very, very rare. So you might only need 2 or 3 sales. So it looks really impressive. But then once you start getting onto page 1 and you're trying to move up, it becomes much more difficult. Why? Because that's where most of the sales taking place. So on Amazon, unless you're on page 1, it's absolutely pointless in most cases. So that's why it's really important to get an understanding of this. Okay, ranking models are not the same on each marketplace, and behavioural features drive rankings. A blended score is used, counter clicks, add to cart, purchases. Add to cart seems to be the largest signal of conversion continue. Data I've seen, and this is why things like now, it's a lot trickier for people to do it, but people do add to cart campaigns, right? And what happens with add to cart? The way it works, you can move the needle with add to cart and you can get it to page 1, but you need sales binded to that keyword for it to move from the bottom of the page and up. So add to cart will take you there in a similar way of doing search, find, buy. It'll, a few giveaways will get you to the bottom of page 1 or the top of page 2 because of the lack of sales. But you do need keywords binded to sales in order for that to enact moving up the page. And I've turned it off again. There we go. Calm down. Right, ranking with Amazon PPC. Who's pissed a load of money down the drain and found out it didn't work for them? We're going to stop that today. All right, so if your PPC is competitive conversion rate and generates enough orders, it will definitely boost your organic ranking. So as we can see here, each bar represents 1 week of data. There's 8 weeks in total. Organic rank, impressions, orders, and spend. So in the left column, we see the average organic rank here. And then, whereas the smaller bars show rank 1, which is position 1, it's going to be as good as you're going to get as it comes down. Yeah. You can also see that the ranks move quickly towards rank 1, and he says and girls do, over the first part of the month. In the remaining columns, we see impressions, orders, and spend. These are mostly trending upwards and possibly plateauing after the first month or so. So we look here, organic rank goes from up in the gods, comes down. Impressions go up as we increase in terms of clicks, and then obviously that correlates with orders, and then you can start to see the spend going up, the more we invest, more sales that are coming through, and then these are moving down into those positions. Cool. Do that again. Yeah, okay, good. Right, your listing should be very well optimized as conversion rate plays a massive factor in success. We've seen it before, people set their listings up and then they'll run PPC to it and just burn a load of cash. Yeah? It's got to be fully optimized before you start moving that, especially when you're going with competitive keywords. As a bad conversion rate will be a hindrance to your organic rank, putting you underwater every time you send non-converting traffic. So the point I'm trying to say there is, years ago, but I've done a video on YouTube from 2015. I showed you the correlation of PPC sales to a keyword and the impact of organic rank. I demonstrated 3 products all the way back then. The algorithm's changed since then because it becomes more of a relevance factor because you can't just blast your way to the top and spend as much money as you want. If you blast traffic using PPC and your conversion rate is in the shitter, then what happens, that affects your organic ranking, so you get penalised for it. So you need a good, consistent conversion rate. And conversion works on the continuum. You turn it off again. Here we go. The algorithm has a multifaceted view of what the conversion rate, that what we read as a sale. When the customer clicks on your product, you're effectively getting a micro conversion credit on the query. Going back to the negative and positive labels, yeah, in terms of AML. If the customer spends time on your product page and does not bounce off, you're getting another micro conversion. The more time spent on the page, in principle, the higher the engagement. When the customer adds the product to the cart, again, you'll get another positive signal, which heads towards your conversion on the continuum, which is micro conversion. Okay, let's skip that bit, because that just becomes confusing. Here we go. So whilst it's still a very basic breakdown, you can see conversion process is on a continuum rather than a static object. So what I'd like to get people to think about is when we optimize our listings, we think title, bullet points, back-end keywords, description, yeah? So we look at that and we go, can we write the best copy as possible? You know, some of them do that kind of guru, kind of hypnotic manipulation copy and stuff like that. But no one looks, I see that as a flat vector. It's like, right, we do need keywords in the title. We need to make sure these are weaved in throughout the body text and everything else. But look at it in a 3D mechanism rather than a flat vector. Why? Because you're now looking at, well, I might not get the full conversion, but I've got to look at the micro conversions. I need to engage people to stay on page, because that's a micro conversion, yeah? I also want to entice people to add to cart. So, but we don't think like that. We just think we want a nice optimized listing and someone's got to do it for us and it just kind of works. But think about the micro conversions. When you think about it in a 3D versus a flat vector, you can start to think, how much more can I make this engaging, not just relying on kind of creepy like manipulation copy or hypnotic copy. So once you start to get your head around that, because you've got to think about the images, how engaging is your images, right? People eat with their eyes and then they look at the price. That's pretty much common on Amazon. That's where you get higher click-through rate, but you want a good click-through rate, but you want them to land. You don't want them to scroll and go somewhere else. So you want to make sure people are fully engaged with your product page. All right, so how do you do this yourself? I'm going to give you the basic end of things in terms of selecting your keywords and ranking, right? So, the ideal setup, one keyword, one ASIN, one campaign. Isolating like this means that we can measure top of search, which is very important, on a granular level. You want to know where your conversions come from. The sponsored products, top of search placement statistics remain on a campaign level. So let's talk about the ad placement algorithm now. The ranking algorithm compares many different factors. Two of them are, so fast, order history and conversion rate for a specific product listing and for said keyword. Come on, here we go. Then this is competitors on the same keyword. If you get higher conversion rate for PPC sales, then you're gaining points on both of these metrics. In what we've seen in-house, relevance will then get a great boost from this. Problems with ranking high velocity products. This comes back to the ranking algo. There are only so many ad positions placement worthy of eyeballs, i.e. on page 1. For a high velocity keyword with established ASINs that are already converting, it can be still extraordinarily difficult to break through and get any impressions, even with a phenomenal conversion rate. This is why you hear people bidding $20 a click without getting any impressions. Depending on your stamina, and if you keep going over time, Amazon's algo may determine to favour your campaign, but when there is no real telling of when this would happen. It's just that if someone goes out of stock, you might be the one in next, and then you try to retain your position from there. So, what is the answer here? Is there a special calculation? Well, the answer is yes, no, and a little bit of common sense. So I want to present this to you today just to give you an overview structure of how you could look of, most people would just spend money on PPC, go, right, them keywords there's 10 grand, and let's see where we go. And it's not enough as a guidance, and there's a million ways of doing things. But what we come up with a form, I did, my partner, who's an algorithm expert, come up with this to be as a basic formula as possible. So bear with me on this. K1 means keyword 1, K2 means keyword 2. So these are overestimated numbers just to give an example of what I'm going to present here. So imagine if we've got position 1 or keyword 1, you need to sell 1,000 units a day, right? Position 2 is 500, position 3 is 250, okay? It's out of reach, very expensive, and it's over the top number. Now let's come down to lower hanging fruit. Keyword number 2, still going to be a tough ask. Position 1, keyword 2, position 1, 50, position 2, 25, position 3, 10. Position 4 though, can we do 5? That's reasonable, right? So the idea is, how many orders a day can the top of search placement generate based on an estimated 20% conversion rate? So what you're doing is you'll start here. This is your goal. That is your target. It doesn't mean you're going to hit it, but you need to have more than just a thing in the air and then just have a little bit of a prayer and go, where did that 10 grand go? So to get to position number 4 here, you might aim for at least 5 orders a day. If your conversion rate is 20%, that might mean 5 orders divided by conversion rate is equal to 25 clicks. If the cost per click is $5 for that position, it will cost you $5 divided by conversion rate, which is equal to $25 per acquisition on average, or $125 a day on those acquisitions. Which comes back to the point of gaining impression share and the cost of running expensive top search campaigns. And usually a market that's red hot generally will have a high cost per click. So how do we launch PPC and then take off, knowing where our numbers land for break even? That is going to be one of the most difficult things to do. One idea that you can look at is you can play around with the daily budget caps. So effectively, if you cap your budgets on a daily basis, you're fixing the spend rather than lowering the cost per click. If you lower the cost per click, you may not make it into position 4 in the ad placement algorithm. So if you play with that on a daily basis and then work it out over time, so what happens is you'll still burn the money, you'll still be able to hit the ad algorithm, placement algorithm if your bid is high enough. It just means you'll burn through your budget faster. And it's something that you will look to do to taper off over a period of time. Often it's better to manage that on a daily basis. So going this in PPC in summary, competitive conversion rate and orders is very, very important. Highly optimized listing, as we covered, your conversion rate is on a continuum to remember about engagement, add to cart, time on site, clicks, etc. Ranking PPC summary with setting up. One keyword, I mean, you can do multiple, most people know how to set shit up, but what I mean is, if you're just going to dial in, start with one and then build out from there. One keyword, one AC, one campaign, based on we need to activate for the top of search reporting so we get the right information back. You're focusing in where do you want to be seen in the ad placement algorithm. Higher velocity equals harder to get impressions. So go for the mid-tail keywords based on ad position. So give an example of a keyword. Let's just say beard oil. Instead of starting with beard oil, and you sell an organic beard oil, start with that. So it's organic beard oil. Get sales on organic beard oil, and then go off, once you've got some history, then go off the beard oil. Because it's all part of the same phrase, it's just a 2-part phrase instead of a 3-part, and that's going to help with building the relevance around it. Geo ranking. Okay, does anyone know what geo ranking is? One person, cool. Right, I'm just going to quickly explain the overview of this. So, a geo ranking is done on a zip code level versus a global calculation level. What this means is you can see where your product is ranking across 400 plus zip level locations. Example, you may be number 1 on the third party tool, but across a zip codes, you're anywhere from 1 to 100. So organic here, organic position, page position here. So what this is showing, a keyword that would be, say, you might look in Helium 10 or something like that, and it will just show you, right, you're in position number 2. But how do you diagnose that when the sales are down? Because in these other zip code areas, these other cities, you can see 97, 111, 112, 116, 128. Because people get confused, like, why my sales go down, but I've retained my position, right? That's because most tools do not have the resources to use something like this, where they're able to pull that data of the position which is located within that city. So New York, LA, it could be multiple places. I think this one returned 282 out of 278 in the database. So to be fair to third-party software providers, it's almost impossible for them to provide a cost-effective solution, as it takes so many resources to pull and calculate everything. So you may see people dismissing GeoRank, but the reality is it's different. It can be very beneficial, but generally for larger sellers. Yeah. So when more and more software like this comes out, and you can look to, if you're maintaining your position, say you're in position number 1 or 2, and you can pull your sales report, and you can look at the cities where you're underperforming. Well, you can use DSP. There's some Clear Ads guy here who knows about DSP, so I'll ask him about that later. Or you can use Google Ads as well. So what we could do is send external traffic in the gaps to try and generate more sales. That's what makes it more sophisticated once you get to that level of 7- and 8-figure sellers. It's that 1 or 2% difference that puts you ahead of the rest. But what happens is people shit on GeoRank like it doesn't exist, and it does. It's just that people can't put out tools like this. They're a bit more expensive to use because it takes exceeding amount of processing power. So if you imagine a third-party tool that manages 100 keywords, and they try and return the results to, say, 522 postcodes across 100 keywords per customer, and they've got 20,000 customers, it becomes very expensive. So how do you use this with your PPC? You can plug the gaps using DSP as I mentioned, or Google Ads, and you can dial in as low as a 1 mile radius. With Google, this will benefit more with external signals. Amazon seems to like the diversified traffic, whereas DSP will be more about the conversions at the top of the funnel versus on platform in Amazon itself. Right, fact or fiction? How much time we got left, Pete? Is it done? Can I not deliver this? I've left a menu. Yeah. Fact or fiction? Is the Amazon customer quality score really a thing? Customer quality score does not appear in any of the A9 science literature or mentioned in any video or audio recordings from the A9 team. Customer quality score has been suggested to affect ranking on discounted products versus full price purchased items. If this was the case, then add to cart simply would not work. Add to cart will get you to the bottom of the page, as I've discussed before, so we can skip that. So, customer quality score. What is Amazon's most treasured asset? What's their most treasured asset? What does Jeff go on about all the time?
Customer.
Customer. Well, what type of customer? Prime. That's their most prized assets. So, what happens? To get free shipping, you need to spend at least $25, and most items, when discounted, fall below that. What do most discounted buyers do to get free shipping? They become prime customers. Then why would Amazon assign a low quality score to their most beloved asset? They wouldn't. Amazon FBA is a transactional fees-based revenue generator. Amazon Prime customers generate a lot of such transactions, regardless of whether the product is discounted or not. What we learned here, customer quality score does not appear in the literature or the audio or the video recordings. Add to cart would not work at all if there was such thing as a customer quality score. Most discounts will fall below minimum shipping. Why would you punish prime customers? And transactional fees are a revenue generator for Amazon. There's a last bit as part of this. I know Pete's going to go mad in a minute. customer quality score and the calculation of reviews do not exist. Let me show you. Does the customer quality score affect review calculations? No. Basically, this is a calculation that used to determine the review score. It's called log base 5 within 98% accuracy. Amazon uses the log function as a way of assigning weights 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5-star. What throws it off is this. To calculate the overall star rating and percentage breakdown by star, we don't use a simple average. Nonsense, I'll show you in a sec. Instead, our system considers things like how recent reviews and how the reviewer has bought the items on Amazon. It also analyses reviews to verify trustworthiness. Global listings have a blend of reviews, which brings that calculation from 100% down to 98 because they're not always displayed across all platforms. So which means that they don't show all the reviews every time. This is where rounding up plays a part in the calculation. It could be 4.65 versus 4.64. They round up to 4.7 and 4.6 respectively. Now there's a demo here. Can you just hit play on that demo for me? So what this is here is I'm giving you a quick example whereby I'm going to give you exactly this customer, this scoring here, the 4.7 out of 5, based on all the reviews here, and punch that into this log base 5 calculation. And that will give you exactly, which is done there. This is the second one. So there's 2 listings so far, giving the exact same calculation. So where is all the nonsense that Amazon's talking about? It's not there. See again there, 2,200 reviews. Each and every time, these calculations come out exactly what's on there. So if there are all those variables, why is that not changing? The only time that they're variables is because if you go on the global listings and they don't show them across different marketplaces. I won't play the next video, but there's another video there where it shows you if you get a 1-star review on launch, it takes you 19 reviews to get that back up to 4.8, not even 5. Again, it's reversed log 5 based calculation. So my advice is, when you launch a product on Amazon, if your first review is a 1-star, you're fucked. Because even if you try and run PPC to it, no one's going to buy it because the trust is not there. But it's going to look, it's got, oh yeah, look at this product that's at the top of the search results. It's got 1 star. I'll click on that and I'm going to buy that because I'm an idiot. Right? No one's going to buy it. So you can't even trade your way out of it. So this is not advice from me whatsoever, but you're going to have to just bring it in on the new ACID. It's the only way you're going to get around it. Unfortunately, Amazon doesn't give you the ground to play there, because if you spend 30, 40 grand launching products, in some cases people do, sometimes it's less, and you get a 1-star review, that's literally could be your business over if you're just starting out, because it's a lot more expensive to be on Amazon in terms of cash flow now. Okay, that's it for me. I hope I haven't sent everyone to sleep and that you enjoyed it, and I'm happy to take any quick questions before the next video. No question. How do PPC and Amazon Profile affect each other? What would be the context for that? The only thing I would say there was if it's a product that's Amazon Prime, it's different from Merchant Fulfilled. Love the podcast, thank you. Checks in the post. Any other questions? Because I think I've been overrun here, but I'm happy to talk to you guys at the lunch, or you can message me. So my email address is danny@sellersessions.com if you need anything. But thank you for your time, guys.